Maybe one or two more questions before we wrap it up. I saw somebody's hand eagerly go up.
So who do you propose to sue? The UN or the U.S. federal government, or which body do you sue?
I think both, and I think our legislators that support this.
Yeah.
I think that they should be held accountable. Who's passing our laws? Who's passing these laws, and who is supporting the taxes? And I think that's an area that I need to talk to an attorney with. But I think that would be, again, the most prudent way to move forward. I think you had your hand up, and then her, because I think that we had already answered your question. Yes?
Other states that are moving forward with initiatives to prohibit geoengineering, I just read on aircraft.org that Rhode Island is moving forward with legislation or putting it on a ballot to eliminate or prohibit geoengineering. Is there going to be a coalition of states that get together and say, we've had enough of this?
I think that answer lies in the hands of us in this room, those of us who come from other states.
And it also comes down to monitoring, because I'm not sure in the state of Arizona, through the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality, they don't measure down to the nanoparticulate levels. So they can say there's high particulates on this particular day, and then, your car didn't pass emissions, that's such a big deal.
Yeah,
But yet they're
EPA
spraying this crap in the sky, they're not even monitoring for it.
Correct. They're not monitoring. Everything is locked up, and it's the game is rigged. Okay, the EPA quit only test for combustibles. So they say we don't see any evidence of geoengineering. We haven't looked for it, but there's no evidence for it. If you don't look for something, you're not going to find it. And that's why we've had a lot of attempts at people that had great ideas at moving forward with lawsuits. The game is stacked. The game is rigged. We have to address this where this is going. And again, this legislation that is moving forward, if we don't stop it, it most likely will legalize geoengineering. And once that's legalized, again, it's going to make it exponentially more challenging for us to answer. Should we go on? Or? Okay, we're going to have to go to the panel. I'll take one more question, and then we'll move on to the panel. We can discuss more of these questions during the panel. And Lexi and Nico will have a lot of good insight as well to bring into this conversation. Yes? What was the question?
My only question was, if it's already illegal with our treaties, why does our government think it's legal to do it to our own people? I mean, it's like...
They don't, but it's... Yeah, the question was, why does our government think that it's okay to do this? Well, these programs are definitely illegal, okay? There's no legality. However, people are catching on. So we have critical mass now. We have people moving forward with lawsuits and legislation. So it's critical. It's critical for them to pass this legislation, take it out of the United States into an unelected body, because that will prevent us here in the United States from taking action. That's why it's a very critical time. We have a climate agreement in France in December where they are planning on signing a climate agreement with about 22 or 23 different countries, possibly 66, maybe I have the number incorrectly. If we allow that to go forward, I think there's a 5-year implementation plan on that. So our time is very short. We have to get aggressive. We have to do this legally and again legislatively, and that is my message tonight. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming out. Thank you so much for allowing me to share, and most of all, thank you so much for what you are going to be doing in terms of addressing and taking action at stopping these programs. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Michael. So would you help me welcome our panelists up to join Michael, Alexander May Hunter from Phoenix, and also Nicholas Guillermo from Tucson. So if you have questions with other panelists, if you could please come up and talk in the mic so everyone can hear your question. Thank you. So would each of you like to make a brief statement about your organization or your purpose or what your feeling is about this? Okay.
No.
Hello? I wanted to thank Joe, the man that owns the restaurant, for having this event tonight, and I wanted to thank Ann Logan Crossland of the Northern Arizona Skywatch for putting on this event and having us up here. My name is Alexandra May Hunter, and I am a legal professional that's been practicing for about 24 years. I have a subspecialty in environmental law, and I found out about this issue about 3 years ago and started investigating it. And based on my background as a legal professional, I have to make sure that everything is very, very fact-oriented until I can arrive at a conclusion. So I've spent, I think it's about 30,000 hours investigating this matter, and went to Los Angeles, met Michael and many of the people in that film 3 years ago, and have continued on ever since. Last June, there was an open public meeting in Kingman, Arizona that was hosted by State Senator Dr. Kelly Ward. She's a medical doctor. And it took place in the county building there. It was all publicly recorded. And I was given notice that lawyers from the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality would be present and what their position was going to be. So I came to that meeting, and what I did there was I placed the state vis-a-vis the senator and the lawyers from the ADEQ on actual legal notice of the fact that their storyline is fraudulent. This is not condensation trails. These are chemical trails that are being emitted. Mostly what we see here, I'm down in the valley, are unmarked tanker jets or military jets, completely unmarked and unidentifiable, that have the rear horizontal stabilizer of the tail that's been retrofitted with nozzles. So this is coming from the tails of the airplanes, and I have a photograph here if anyone would like to see it. Anything that I'm going to mention, I have brought documentation, and I'm happy to, give it to you folks so you can share it within, your circles. So I put them on notice. Their storyline was that this was an EPA issue because these were condensation trails, that the state of Arizona did not have jurisdiction. The ADEQ on their website has a special little page that they've created about this called Contrails versus Chemtrails. All of the information on that page is a lie. It is disinformation. So what I did at that meeting was I pointed out the facts, fact-based evidence, the fact that even if, pursuant to their story that this is coming from jet engines, today's jet engines are incapable of emitting condensation trails. The reason being is because they are either high bypass or ultra high bypass turbofan jet engines. Only a very few military, very high powered fighter jets and stuff will be emitting a condensation trail. All of the equipment was retrofitted on all the other military aircraft or commercial aircraft in around 2002, 2003. They went 2002, and there's a man here in the audience that is an expert and can tell you about this. I believe it was 2002. They retrofitted everything with the ultra, and then or the high bypass, and then they upgraded it to the ultra high bypass in 2003. So what I did in Kingman was I corrected their misstatements and their misinformation. I read the law that applies, which are the air pollution laws here in the state of Arizona. And underneath those air pollution laws, the legal definitions do take into particulates and the stuff that they're spraying. Their position was they don't have jurisdiction because it's jet engine condensation. And again, you can find my statement there. It's up on the Mojave County YouTube page. So basically, I put them on notice, and that's who I am. I am the only person in the United States that was able to seize an opportunity where you had an open public hearing with a state-level official and state-level legal attorneys from an environmental agency. So since that time, they've done absolutely nothing about it. Dr. Ward has now said she never believed in the chemtrail situation. Basically, the ADEQ is completely complicit in a cover-up.
and they've been placed on notice. So one of the things that I've been trying to do in working with activists globally and here in the United States is trying to push people to get a legislative move where they're going in, because every single state in the United States has air pollution laws that are all being violated, because that's what this stuff is. So I've been working with other people that are real serious-minded, and we're getting actually incredible movement in California right now. We have a senator there that is going to sponsor a bill like the one that's just happened in the state of Rhode Island prohibiting geoengineering. And I don't want to really tip my hand at this point, but we have an activist that's, Michael and I both know this man, is working in conjunction with one of the people that was in this movie to get this sponsored in the state of California. California being targeted. Between 25 to 43%, depending on the crop, of food comes out of California, and it's been completely droughted out. This is basically a land grab. That's what this is. There are 7 agendas underneath, 8 agendas basically underneath this program. I highly urge everybody here to purchase the book by Ilana Freeland. It is called Chemtrails, HAARP, The Full Spectrum Dominance of Planet Earth. I talk about her book in every single interview and presentation I do because she's completely nailed the program. There are 7 agendas, weather modification being only one of the agendas. And the change-up of the pH of the soil, ladies and gentlemen, so that only the Monsanto seeds will grow is only part of the weather mod. You saw, we had a futures trader here, Mike and I are from Chicago, from the Chicago Merc Exchange. That falls under weather modification as well. So please get her book. It's called Chemtrails, HAARP, The Full Spectrum Dominance of Planet Earth. You can find her. She's got a dedicated link on aircrap.org. I also have a page there, a legal page. So basically what I'm doing is I'm trying to help other very, very serious-minded folks that aren't afraid of dealing with politicians, because who wants to deal with them? None of us, I can guarantee you that. But this is a geopolitical situation, so we're getting some movement in some of the other states that people are really just hammering on these, basically folks that are either on a health and safety subcommittee or an environmental subcommittee. We're getting buy-in, giving them enough documentation to prove this up, that they're willing to sponsor that same type of a anti-geoengineering bill that Rhode Island has. So that's what I'm doing at the state level. Now globally, I'm working with 5 other activists. We are going to Paris, France in July to the largest climate conference on the planet prior to the signing of this UN document, which, by the way, folks, this is not made in the shade. There's 50 senators here in the United States that voted against the fact that people are not creating global warming. So we actually have 50 senators here in our country, in the Senate, that don't believe in the whole global warming aspect of it, certainly not that we are causing this. So this UN agreement that the United States and 194 other countries are going to sign in December is not made in the shade. I'm going into Paris. I am presenting at that conference. I'm going to talk about the aspects of this like nobody has ever talked about this in any of these venues. We've had activists going into geoengineering conferences in California, in Berlin, Germany, at Cambridge, England, Oxford. We have been successful at influencing people within that community that didn't even realize the whole full scope of this. Okay, because they're in a locked, compartmentalized world. So it only takes a few people, and it takes effective people, and I'm one of those people. So there you are.
Yeah, Alexandra is awesome. She's like a grandmother for this movement. She's so dedicated to helping everyone, and she's really a trailblazer because no one else has done what she did in Arizona and Kingman, and wow. And Michael, thank you so much for the first 2 films that woke so many people up. I already knew a little bit about geoengineering, but learned a heck of a lot more from your first film. And the second one really, I've been studying Monsanto and GMOs for a while. I've played a role in the very first attempt in labeling GMOs in Arizona. The second attempt, that crumbled real quick. I helped make it crumble because it was doomed for disaster. I could go into that another time. The third attempt, I really wanted to help the guy. His name was Jared Keene. He did a great job. He got a great bill. And he didn't listen to my advice. That failed. But it's still moving forward, and we're going to be successful because unlike the past models of getting an initiative on the ballot, what we're doing is we're going to actually build all the infrastructure first. Instead of filing a bill and then calling up everyone and, everyone loses their hair trying to make things happen and, it stresses people out. And that's why those people aren't even involved anymore. They lost their minds practically. So we're going to do it all a different way. And, I'd really like to thank Ann Logan Cross, and thank you so much. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be here. She listened to my message. We had a big event at the library, I think it was about 2 years ago. And it was about the same amount of people, I'd say. Maybe it was a little more even. But it was a great panel of individuals. And one of the people mentioned the same strategy of going and collecting particulates. And he went to a little more detail. Sounds a little far-fetched, but he was saying maybe we should hire a judge to be in there, have a lab test done right there on the spot, and then follow the plane and arrest the people right when it lands. I thought that was pretty phenomenal. But so I'll just give a brief background on me. I gotta pass the mic. I'm not sure what the scope of how this is going to flow, but we'll just freestyle it. Canvassing is one of the things that I can bring to the table. I'm going to show you guys how we can canvass for ballot initiatives, which is a new strategy no one else in the country is doing. And we're going to be successful because with technology today, we can create a critical mass, a network of people through social media, through our phones, our friends and family, people that we know. We can have the total amount of signers we need to sign a petition. It's like 5%, 5 to 8%. We could have them all organized, eventually. And it could happen really rapidly. In fact, to the point where we could put an initiative on the ballot like in a week. You send out a mass email. People could print them out here in Arizona. So that whole paradigm of, it's going to be a struggle, it's going to cost millions of dollars to hire petitioners. One last point, okay, because we are going to solve this problem. I'm very confident. I've done polls. I'm going to do a public poll. It's going to have videos. If I ask 100 people, 90 people say, yeah, I agree with this idea. I'm going to discuss in more detail tonight. My last point is, I don't know if you guys knew, but today is it's not only a full moon, which is really auspicious, but it's Lord Buddha's birthday, and they say that your thoughts are magnified 100,000 times. So I know a lot of people watch these films and they get kind of depressed and they're like, oh, wow, it really is the apocalypse. Well, guess what? That kind of negative thinking kind of draws us closer towards that because people give up, and it's a self-defeating mannerism. Be positive, be hopeful. The solutions are right here. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail tonight, and we're going to make it possible. In fact, there's enough people in this room to make some huge waves in Arizona that will send shockwaves throughout the country and the world about what's possible. And be positive because, again, take for what it's worth. There's tons of scientific evidence that shows our mental intention affects everything around us. So if you don't believe in God or that, it's okay because there's science that proves that this stuff, this mental intention philosophy works. And be positive and say some prayers and, bless everybody that's in this room for being here. And, we're going to be successful. It's a very, very important night.
Very nice.
Thank you. I think I've shared enough already, so I think it's probably time to hear from you, and you're aware of our backgrounds, so we have a microphone up there. Before I get into that, I'd like to share my websites, which I failed to do before. For the class action lawsuit, right now we're collecting names, and if you know of any attorneys that might be interested in moving forward, I believe that this will be the biggest, and can be the biggest class action lawsuit in the history of our planet. So this is very big, and it will happen, and I believe that this is one of the two ways to get these programs stopped quickly. That website is geoengineeringactionnetwork.org, and we just started that. And we need to move forward with funding for an unconventional Shade of Grey. So the website for that is unconventionalgrey.com. And we have angel opportunities, and that's the way that we funded our other two films. It was by people either donating or pre-ordering the film. So that is the way that we were able to get this out to millions of people now, and many of them are taking action. Before we get going, I'd like to ask Iona to stand up, because I've thanked many people tonight. Iona is right there. I didn't know her, but somebody said that I was coming into Sedona, and you need to stay stood up, please. And Iona heard that I was coming into town and offered her home and for us to edit. So we've been working. She even went out of town, and without knowing me, and it's just really made this a reality, and made the trailer and made our progression much more effective. So thank you very much. I really appreciate it. So our microphone is right up there, and if you have any questions for the group in terms of our expertise, I think you've heard it, please come up. And I'm not going to be holding on to this microphone all night. You have to go up to the, yes. And it's for all of us, whoever you have a question directed to.
This may sound like a stupid question, but how come you never hear the media talk about this?
I could probably cover that. I've taken that question about a couple of times before. Well, our corporate mainstream media, if you watch television, you look at the commercials, it's companies that are owned by Monsanto, the corporate interest. And the leverage of control that's on our mainstream media is immense. And these are corporately driven programs. And a lot of these corporations control our media. So if they go out of the guidelines that they're given, the TV show gets taken off very quickly. So we have a controlled media. As a matter of fact, Colby was the CIA director, and he made a statement. He said anybody of any significance in our mainstream media here in America is controlled by the CIA. So the CIA their goal is global governance, and that's the objective. These programs, geoengineering, because of the manipulation they create, because they need global governance supposedly to address this issue of climate change or global warming, because of the impacts, it's moving us into this global governance, into this new world order global governance issue. So it's a very effective, yes, the new world order, it's a very effective manner. I think did I answer that correctly?
So from my research, I found out recently, actually, I saw some post on Facebook, about 70% of all advertising revenue for the media comes from pharmaceutical companies. And a lot of people don't know this, but Monsanto is actually currently owned by Pfizer. What a perfect combination for evil, because seriously, now they don't have any interest of keeping you healthy at all, of course, because then they can sell people drugs and cancer medicines and all this stuff. So Pfizer owns Monsanto. So I hope that answers your question, because Pfizer's funding the media. So why is the media reporting on it? Well, Pfizer's going to make money.
The media is not reporting on it because it's bad. It's not good. If this was an okie dokie situation and they were benevolent, wonderful people, they'd be telling us. Okay, toxic nanoparticulates that are poisonous to the atmosphere and the ecosystem, they don't want you guys to know.
Okay, the larger media isn't going to pick this up. How about smaller local radio stations, like our little radio stations right here, like our gal here from GASP, and some of the organizers, that we contribute some money and get on a local advertise, like you hear our local rock stations advertise a concert here and a concert there. Just a little simple, hey, have you guys looked up today and seen the skies? And it was really interesting. I study music, and every year I go up to a Humboldt State University. This is a little bit unrelated. And up in Humboldt, there was a time where helicopters used to fly all the time to bust the pot guys up there, in the community. On their national public radio, they would announce oh, helicopters seen flying over such and such an area, cover your crops, and so they took personal responsibility over their radio stations, their little radio stations, to get the word out. And like you said, it's all going to be grassroots, so we have to start out small, people that will support it. Joe, the guy who owns this restaurant, supports this whole thing. Thank you, Joe. Yeah. So maybe we can get together and do some of our little and buy some advertising. We buy it and pay for it.
I think that's a great idea. We've had the opportunity to get on radio shows. I've probably been on over 700 various radio shows, reached literally millions of people. Nice. Also mainstream media. NBC did a story. I've been on, I believe, Fox News. Many mainstream media outlets just had an interview with Russia Today, but we haven't seen that interview, so I'm not sure if they backed out of it. But absolutely, I think once we get a direction, my goal, and I want to state my position very strongly. We've woken up millions of people around the world. At one time, we were reaching about 2 million people per week just through various media outlets. My goal is not to wake people up anymore. My goal is to activate people, and I think that's where we need to be. So I think once we get a clear, concise action plan, and that's what I'm hoping to do in my investigation with an unconventional shade of gray, and also going to France, and with Lexi is going to be part of that group. So we're going to get information and utilize that information to put together models, to put together action plans, and I think that's the way to move forward. So commercial, based on that, I think would be very effective.
I just wanted to give a plug to a guy that I just noticed is here. He does a radio show. He's in Sedona. His name is Richard Sachs. Richard, would you stand up so everybody can see you? Richard just interviewed Michael. This is a hometown boy, and he does Lost Arts Radio, the Lost Arts Foundation. Is that what it's called?
Lost Arts Research Institute.
Lost Arts Research Institute. You can find him on the web, at his website. And he has a YouTube channel, and he has been doing phenomenal programming. So thanks for coming, Richard, and thanks for interviewing Michael.
It's going to involve ballot initiatives. It's also going to possibly involve referenda, of course, because that's how we stop bad laws. It's going to involve recalls, definitely, because we need to recall and kick the politicians out of office, not just wait for their full term to expire. If we have an election coming up, let's say they're a senator, and we want them out because they're not doing a thing about this and all the most crucial issues. We need to be the force on the ground, getting signatures and networking, calling people, saying, hey, you got to print this petition out, get your neighbors to sign, because that's all it really takes. And I've done the math. If you look at the 1.5 time we have to garner signatures from the very first day they say you can collect them in Arizona, it would only take like 200 people to get this done. And I'm not saying you're going to have to petition full-time or anything. I mean, I have a wife and a 1.5-year-old son, and I lost all my free time practically as soon as that happened. But you know what? I can easily find an hour, maybe 1.5 to 2 hours a week to get a page, 2 pages, or 3 pages of signatures. And that's all it's going to take. It's like 200 of us making it a lifestyle. And it's fun. I'll tell you, it's so much fun petitioning. I have so many amazing stories on the YouTube channel. I'm going to talk more about this, but the point is, it's enjoyable. You get to meet people in your community. You can help out local restaurants. The only effective form of activism is a direct protocol where we essentially make the law and supersede the governor's right to block our bill. And that's the ballot proposition process. So we have 5 types. In Arizona, we have 4 of them available to us. The first very strong type that we're going to use, thanks to Alexandra May Hunter's work, she's going to help us draft the best, probably the best in the world ever legislation, at least for the USA, to stop geoengineering, to create sovereignty. It's probably going to include a lot. She could probably tell you what it may include, but we're going to take that bill, and I have to be online here. I'm the only one who really needs to be public about this because someone had to file a PAC to do this. My name is public. All you folks that signed the petition, all that's private and confidential. The elections office cannot share that. No one can look into that. Not supposed to. Who knows what's really going on? CIA might have access to that too. But the point is, that's protected information. Okay, her name doesn't even have to be on the bill. No one's name has to be out there but me, and I only did it because I have faith in God, and I decided that if no one does this, we really are going to be hopeless, And if they go and assassinate me, okay, I'll go back to my spiritual master sooner, and I'm, okay with that. Okay, because life is suffering. We are a miserable world. Everyone's depressed, and these geoengineers, these globalists, they kind of put that into the plan. But we can stop this through these 5 methods. Initiative, where we create a new law and we vote and it supersedes the governor. Arizona has some of the strongest initiative rights in the country, thankfully. And just a couple years back, thanks to a bill that I helped circulate, we have a very strong 10th Amendment protection law, Prop 215, if I recall, which says that we can nullify any federal action we deem unconstitutional.
What is your website? What's the name of your website?
Subscribe at RIPAC, RIPAC.us. It's in development. Another better site that will allow subscription soon is Activism Truth. It's got broken modules, but we'll get it up soon. Activismtruth.com.
Let's thank you very much, Nick. Let's do some Q&A. We want to hear from you, and you're aware of our specialties, so we would like to answer and field questions. What was your question?
Well, this has to do with water and how you're saying that water is going to be the new oil. So are there groups out there that are getting together so that they can counter that? They can counter those investors and, in a way, kind of play their game, but to the benefit of stopping geoengineering?
There are some, but very few people are seeing it out in California. I've been out to the Delta about 2 or 3 times, and I've met with groups and I've gone to water meetings. And not everybody is fully aware of what's going on. Some of the farmers in the Delta are aware of the political takeover of the water, but they feel powerless. So that's where we need some attorneys to come into the scene. That's where we need to address this legally. And that's where we need to address the issue of geoengineering. So I think proving that geoengineering is going on through various forms, the flight plan that we have to go take samples, is probably one of the more effective ways. Did you have anything?
Yeah, I was just going to add to that. In California, I don't know where that lady went. Where did she go? Oh, I'm sorry. Because there's a drought there, the governor can declare a state of emergency, and what he can do is he can dictate water distribution rights, and that's exactly what he's doing.
Yes, he is. You had a question, Iona?
Yes. July is coming up very soon. I would like to hear a couple of action plans that we can take to support this cause.
Well, I think one of them right now would be to support the activists who are going to France, me being one of them. So I have not met my funding objectives yet, and we're hoping to cover that and include that into the film, because I think it's going to be very effective in terms of looking at the various strategies of what they're planning in December. So that would be one thing that we can do. Please sign up for the class action lawsuits. Another action that we can do is, I would like Lexi to share with that. Do you have any?
I would just say some of us are still deficient in our funding. We all are on GoFundMe, and it's Michael J. Murphy, Alexandra May Hunter, Olga Raffa, R-A-F-F-A. She's with Chemtrails Project UK. She's responsible for hand-delivering the UK directive to the Prime Minister and the members of Parliament. So Olga's one of our people. Max Bliss is in France, but he's fully funded. We have a gentleman who's leading the country of Ireland. His name is Terry Lawton, Lawton. And then our lead activist in San Francisco is a gentleman by the name of Patrick Roddy, R-O-D-D-I-E. And we are all on GoFundMe. I'm getting very close. Michael is the most deficient. Michael needs, and plus I think Mike wants to bring a cameraman, so that's double duty. So we really want Michael to come with us, because this is going to be precedent setting. They're not really going to be prepared for what we're going to do there. And it is in the United Nations UNESCO building in Paris. This is very high level. You've got World Bank people. You got the whole crew of the folks that are effectuating this supposed environmental catastrophe on us. So if you guys can help us, we need a little bit more funding. I would say that Michael needs it the most, and then Mr. Terry Lawton out of Ireland, and they're all on GoFundMe. So.
What about petitions for your free?
I'm not, well, that would be a question for Nick. What I did want to stress in terms of what we can do, the U.S. and internationally, the UN, the IPCC is very close to a climate agreement. We must, it is essential to reach out to our Congress, to our state legislators, and to our Senate, and demand that no climate change agreements, treaties, legislation move forward. We demand that geoengineering stops.
Yes.
Period.
Can there be a form letter constructed so that we have something that's solid and uniform?
If somebody would help me with that, that will be on the Geoengineering Action Network. And when we release the trailer, we're going to be directing people towards that website. So what I'm hoping to do is find someone to help write a letter during this time, so that we can have some instruction and give some guidance based on the things that we've learned. So I think that will be really important. How many people would be willing to do that just for an hour a day? Maybe call a couple, or an hour a week, or maybe just an hour in your life, just to call and demand, because I think it's that critical. We're in a very critical time right now, and it's very important that we take action.
Yes, I do. I just want to say, number one, thank you to all three of you. You guys have the balls to do this and get up and speak, and I know it takes an incredible amount of courage to do what you've done and to speak out about this, and it's really critical that we do. Number two, I have a detox clinic over at Prescott, so I'm here from Prescott, and I've seen the difference of what happens when people detox these heavy metals out of their bodies, and things can heal. So I can tell you from firsthand experience and witnessing many people healing by getting this stuff out of their bodies. So that's a critical issue. And I also want to say I would give my time to be a signature collector for petitions. However, I can be used in the Prescott area. I'm happy to do that. And however else I can help, because it takes a few people that can make a huge amount of change, and what you're saying works. So I've seen it happen. Thank you so much to all three of you.
And what is your name, and what is the name of your clinic?
I am Jennifer Oliver, and I have Energy Life Center. It features the Photon Genius machine, which is made here in Arizona, using infrared heat and noble gas tube energy frequencies to pull out toxic metals and stuff that's overwhelming the immune system, so the immune system can get back on track. So, I mean, it works. I've seen it work, and it worked for me. So.
And you're in Prescott?
Yes.
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. So let me know how to get in touch with you, and I can be used in that way.
And we've been sitting down a long time, and I know how that is. So I think we should probably try to wrap it up pretty soon. Any final questions that we have for the panel? Okay.
Really quick, I'd like to thank everybody for showing up today and you bringing awareness to the situation. We talk about activism, we talk about ballot initiatives. Is there going to be any time where we can move forward and name the names of the people that are responsible for this, even those that hide behind the nomenclature of a Monsanto or an Evergreen Air or numerous corporations that are available? Are there resources available for us to research on our own so our message can get to them directly and understand that we're out here and we're concerned?
I'm one of the activists that names names. Other people don't name names. This is airplanes, okay? This is not tanks, this is airplanes. We know they're blowing some stuff off of platforms, the naval aspect. But these are airplanes. So this is the United States Air Force. Who's the head of the United States Air Force? General Mark A. Welsh. He's a 5-star Joint Chiefs of Staff at the Pentagon. Okay? There's your name. John Holdren, Science and Technology Director. He's a known and published eugenicist. Okay, who runs this country? The Pentagon. Who is the head of the Air Force? General Mark A. Welsh. He's the one in charge of all these airplanes. And it's not just military, they have to use other commercial airliners. They got to keep enough particulates up in the atmosphere, the troposphere, to keep it saturated. So there's a name. And what was your name, sir?
My name is Kevin Seagal.
Okay, Kevin,
Phoenix,
well,
Arizona.
I am one of the people that names names. And for starters, if you want the guy at the top, the guy in charge of the airplanes is General Mark A. Welsh.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Right. Thank you very much. Yes, and we are naming names.
Hey, there, just one last comment. I used to, sorry guys. I used to organize professionally for PETA. Back in the 90s, Meat is Murder, Fur is Dead, I was part of all of that. I believe in direct action. I believe in multiple approaches. You gotta have a multi-pronged approach. Some things are gonna appeal to different people. I had mentioned this to Lexi when I met her back at the Look Up premiere, that, why not get some Hells Angels at the ADAQ's house, legally, standing outside with a sign, telling quietly, obeying the law, this is what your neighbor's doing. Peer pressure.
Yeah.
I do believe in what everybody's saying about the legal approach at the state level, the federal level, international level, but I also think it's empowering for people, wherever you are, talk to whoever you meet. Go to your city council meetings. I've been going since February. We've had 2 city council members attend these meetings. One of them is, in particular, John Thompson, is now looking to get funding to test our specific Sedona air, water, and soil from a lab recommended by Ilana Freeland. So it looks, small, but you never know who knows who. I lived in LA and worked in television for 22 years. I learned that lesson really well. Talk to whoever you know, do whatever you can, act creatively, get a sign. I've got signs in my car that say, "You're being sprayed like a bug," by Greg Palin, with various websites on it. I get people just looking into my car saying, "Hey, do you have any information about that?" And you start a conversation, and they bring up other issues that we all should know about locally and beyond. Get a sign, one of those big ones, 6x4, and stand at the roundabout in front of the Hyatt. I got a lot of attention when we did our march out here. It's really simple, just especially on the weekends during tourist season. You guys, it's just like petitioning. It will give you a real sense of what you can do immediately, and then you can focus globally and internationally as well. We shouldn't neglect that, but you can do something right now and feel really good about it. So that's all I wanted to say. And thank you all for being here.
Thank you very much. And I think that probably convenes our evening, unless there's any other input. And there. Yes, absolutely. I'd like to, this is Judy, a good friend, and has been a tremendous benefit to the movement and to humanity. She has made these cards. These cards are for our legislators. They say there's more than one kind of terrorism. On the back it explains what geoengineering is, and then we demand that geoengineering stop. So please, Judy, do you have these available?
Oh, they're right on your table, Mike.
Okay, they're on the table on the way back. We also have DVDs, MSM for detoxing, and T-shirts. But I think tonight, bottom line is, I hope my goal tonight is that we all walk away with asking ourselves, what can I do? What can I be a part of? What resonates with me? Because bottom line is, we, each and every one of us who are aware of us, I think it's incumbent that we move forward to some capacity. Whether it's you tell 2 people a week or 2 people an hour, whatever your call is and about how to move forward, it's important that you move forward in your calling. I want to thank everybody tonight for coming. Oh, there is one more. Oh, you've been standing for a while. My apologies.
So just real quick, you already asked mine, you're not using it. Yeah. So you already answered part of the question analysis, and they asked who is behind this, and we said they're airplanes that come from the military, right? But these airplanes, they're all over the globe now. It's obvious they're spraying every single state. I just came back from New Mexico and Texas, and they were spraying heavy, really, really bad there, and people is not even aware about what's going on right there. It's sad. But this is everywhere. It's in Europe. It's in Mexico. It's everywhere. So it's now the airplane, the military airplanes that are flying the globe and spraying this.
When I address this, I say it's a military program and there's subcontractors there too. So in other words, we've got a lot of photographs of activists in different states and locations of marked commercial airliners. So obviously they didn't have enough, the military in all these countries didn't have enough equipment to keep the atmosphere saturated, and they have to keep it saturated for the movement, the electronic, the EMF movement of the weather. And so they're subcontracting part of it out. I mean, we've got, pictures of Southwest Airlines coming right off the tail of the plane. And that's a loaded airplane with passengers on it. Well, nobody inside that cabin can see it because it's being emitted right out of the tail. And that's just one airline. We have people all over the world that do flight tracker, flight aware, there's different software. They ID the flight with the number, they photograph or video it, and these planes are emitting this stuff. So the militaries in all these countries, they didn't have enough equipment, and they're subcontracting it out. And so the airlines are banking bucks on this too. Does that answer your question? Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay.
Michael, did you want to sign any of your merchandise?
I'm sure I'd be more than happy to sign any DVDs or anything that will have a marker back there.
And folks, again, just to remind you, we're going to have an encore presentation of Michael's film, the one you just saw, in case any of your friends couldn't make it, the 16th of June, 2 weeks from today. Okay, thanks so much for coming. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, everybody, and as always, keep looking up.